All right, we got section 12.3, applications of scientific notation. Okay, write decimal numbers in scientific notation and use scientific notation to help simplify decimal expressions. Let's look at the definition. We've got if n is a decimal number. Okay, it's just n is just going to be some random number we find. Okay, decimal number means it could be an ending decimal or it could be a decimal somewhere in there. Then in scientific notation, n equals a times 10 to the n. Okay, where notice a has to be between 1, okay, it can equal 1 and less than 10, okay, but not equal to 10. So basically it can be the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, okay, and where n is an integer, which means you could have a -1 up in here, you could have a -30, you could have 30, so just trying to help you try to decipher that definition. Let's look at an example here, and this will become more apparent. Okay. Write the following decimal numbers in scientific notation. First off, we've got to identify where's the decimal at. On this one, it's hidden. It's not very apparent, but there it is right there. It's always at the end. Okay? And what I want to do is I want to find an an A that's going to be between 1, okay, and basically 1 and 9, okay, because we can't include the 10. And we go over as far as we possibly can. So notice what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That puts it right in between here. Okay, this guy right here is going to be my A. Okay, but what's going to happen is I'm going to include that 0.72, but that does make it less than 10. So whenever I write 8.72, well, I can multiply all that by, well, how many places did I move the decimal? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's going to be 10 to the power of 6. And if you did this on your calculator, notice that's 10 with 6 zeros. Well, that just means I'm going to be moving this guy back 1, 2, 3, and when I go all the way back, I get back to my original number. Okay, let's look at B here. Okay, B, well, instead of going in the positive direction, okay, now we're going to go in the negative direction. Okay, so let's go and move our decimal. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I've got 7 right there. Notice that's going to be between 1 and 9. Okay, and I've got this 3.76. So write down 3.76 times, it's always going to be times 10. Okay, you just got to decide what is the power going to be. Well, here, notice, okay, we went in a different direction. We went to the right, okay? So when we go to the right, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going to be to the -7, okay? So here, let's think of it this way. When we move the decimal, okay, and then we'll kind of do it this way. When we move to the right, okay, power is negative, okay? Okay, when we move to the left, power is positive. And that's how we can think of these the whole way through. Let's look at some more here. Okay, simplify the following expressions by first writing the decimal numbers in scientific notation and then using properties of exponents. So notice, yes, technically, could you just work all this out in your calculator? Yes. But, sorry, not going to make that easy on you. So let's come in here and let's look at the first one here. And I'm going to rewrite this. Give me 1 second. Copy this over to a blank page so we can kind of look at it a little bit better. Let's start looking at this very carefully and start changing everything to scientific notation. Okay, so we've got this 0.85. Let's come over here and let's take this 0. And let's go and start moving this decimal over here. Okay, well, moved it over too far. Give me 1 second here. Alright, we're going to take this decimal and we're going to move it to right there, right in between that number there. And that's going to give us 8.5 times, okay, well, I moved it 1, 2, times 10 to the -2. Okay. Then notice here I have 41,000. Well, my decimal value is going to be here, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3. I've got to go over one more because that's only a 41. And now I've got 4.1. So here I'm going to have 4.1 times 10 to the what? 1, 2, 3, 4 times 10 to the power of 4. All over. Okay, let's keep it going. Here I'm going to move my decimal to 1, 2, 3, 4 to where it's right in between there. Okay, so I have 1.7 times 10, and how many places do we move it? 1, 2, 3, 4 to the negative 4. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to perform two different operations. I want you to notice something. I'm going to go ahead and do some math here where I'm going to go ahead and multiply this guy to this guy and then divide by this guy. Okay, so when I do that on my calculator, and this will become very apparent really quick. Okay, so I got 8.5 times 4.1, and then I can enter it, then I divide that by 1.7, and I get 20.5. Okay, be very careful here, just bear with me. Okay, I've got 20.5. Okay, times, okay, notice I've still got some times in here. Well, times what? Well, notice we've still got some rules of exponents here happening. Notice on top here I have 10 to the negative 2, well, multiplied by another base. Okay, well, that's going to be 10 to the 2 plus 4 all over 10 to the negative 4. Well, if I kind of continue on with that, I've got 20.5. Well, negative 2 plus 4 is going to give me, okay, I'm going to put a little multiplication here, times 10, okay, to the 2 all over 10 to the negative 4. Make sure that looks like a 4 there. Okay, well, let's remember our quotient rule. Well, let's continue on, and I've got 20.5 times, okay, well, this is going to be 10 to minus negative 4. Okay, well, when I do that, notice I got 2 minus negative 4. That's going to be 2 plus 4, which is going to leave me with times 10 to the 6. But notice what's happening here. I've still got, now all of a sudden I've got this 20.5. Well, that guy right there can, now I can take this decimal and move it over by 1. And that's going to give me 2.05 times, well, now I've got 10 to the 1, okay, because that's what that new absolute value would be, times 10 to the 6. Well, notice I can just add those two together, and my final answer is going to be 2.05 times 10 to the 7th. Okay? Remember, this guy right here, this A has between, basically has to be 1 through 9. It says, but it can be like 9.99 if you wanted it to. Okay, it just has to be less than, but not equal to 10. So let's do one more. Okay, looking at this one, let's just be very careful. Let's be very intentional with this one and move forward. Okay, so looking at this one, we can kind of start looking at this and going, okay, well, I'm going to change this right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's going to equal 1.11 times 10 to the what? Well, that's going to be 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4 times 10 to the 4th. I'm trying to write everything small here. And how about this next guy? I've got 1, 2. It's going to go in the negative direction. So I've got 6.4 times 10 to the negative 2. All over, well, here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 8 times 10 to the 6th. Okay, and then here I've got 1, 2. And then that's going to be 3.7 times 10 to the what? 2. Okay, when we end up working everything out on our calculator, remember, I'm going to go ahead and multiply all of this, like I said, do my division, and I end up getting 0.24. Okay, now we need to worry about just our absolute values in here, or our powers of 10. Okay, so that's going to be times 10 to the 4th and 10 to the negative 2 all over 10 to the power of 6 and 10 to the power of 2. Well, that's going to be 10, 4 minus 2 all over 10. Sorry, that's going to be a plus there. 10, 6 plus 2. Well, notice that 4 minus, then you got a negative here, it's going to be 4 minus 2, which is going to give me 10 squared. And then 6 plus 2 is going to give me 10 to the power of 8. And then we can do 10, 2 minus 8, which is going to give us 10 to the power of negative 6. Okay, so continuing on, notice here, I've also got this 0.24 now I've got to deal with it. So I've got 0.24, which this now needs to be moved, okay? Because you can't write this in scientific notation yet. So that's going to turn into, well, let's look at it. It's going to be 2.4 times 10 to the negative 1, just because I moved over 1. And then I've still got this negative 6 here, so times 10 to the negative 6. And so whenever we start looking at this, I've got negative 6, okay, plus a negative. Okay, so if we go ahead and write this out, we've got 2.4 times 10 negative 1, okay, plus negative 6. Well, that's just going to end up equaling 2.4 times 10 to the negative 7. And that's how that would all equal out. And just by the way, you could have just done all the math on this on your calculator and you would have got the same exact answer. So let's just do some examples here in just a little bit.